Hello everyone, welcome to the Hindu analysis for 3rd March 2021. Let us begin with the first article today. 4.34 lakh seniors gets vaccinated. So it has been 2 days since the second phase of vaccination has been started for people with 60 plus years of age and people who are above 45 with comorbidities. Now the health ministry officially released that 4.34 lakh beneficiaries have received the vaccine and 60,000 people aged above 45 with comorbidities have also been vaccinated. Now the chairman empowered group that is interested with vaccinating these age groups said that they have upgraded the COVID system and was ready for registration of large volume of beneficiaries. So the first problem that they have noticed in the first day of vaccination was that there were a lot of errors being thrown up by the COVID platform. See, the COVID platform is a web-based platform, it's not a mobile app. So people were confusing it with a mobile app that was launched for the administrators themselves. So the chairman of the empowered group for the COVID vaccine clearly announced that all you have to do is use the web portal, not the application for the mobile, and people who want to register themselves must go through the platform step-by-step process with proper identification documents. Now they are expecting that the second phase is going to be a success and they have upgraded the platform, COVID platform, to withstand the number of people that were registering for the vaccine themselves. Now they have also upgraded. In the recent light we have understood that there have been certain cyber attacks on the IT infrastructure of our country. Now in order to ensure that there is no cyber security threats to COVID platform, which is critical because personal details of patients and recipients of the vaccines are stored on the website. So they have said that they have upgraded to protect the website from cyber security threats also. Coming to the next article, India and Japan back in new Sri Lanka port project. Now earlier the Sri Lankan government unilaterally pulled out of the ECT terminal, East Container Terminal, that was supposed to be built by a consortium of China and India and Sri Lanka. India nominated a private company that happened to be Adani Group. China also nominated a private company, and a consortium of both the companies along with certain local contractors based in Colombo were supposed to complete the ECT terminal, that was East Container Terminal. This was the biggest terminal and it had a lot of potential to handle a lot of international container traffic, cargo traffic specifically. But since the project was announced and was awarded to the consortium of Indian and Japanese companies, there were a lot of local protests spearheaded by unions and worker groups. And there was this apprehension that it was being done to counter the progress that was being made in Sri Lanka. But whatever the reason, the Sri Lankan government unilaterally decided to eject the countries of India and Japan, that is the companies that were representing our countries were ejected unilaterally. Now there has been a lot of front and back between both the countries, where India and China alike expressed displeasure at the Colombo's behavior, that is the Sri Lankan government's behavior, and the way with which it unilaterally pulled out and handled the post crisis. Now Sri Lankan cabinet yesterday agreed that they are going to develop a new West Container Terminal with India and Japan. Now this decision, as I said earlier, comes months after the government ejected both the partners from a 2019 tripartite agreement to jointly develop the East Container Terminal. Now neither India nor Japan, as far as now, has officially expressed their opinion or announced that they are taking part in the West Container Terminal project, but sources unofficially are indicating that whatever the agreement that has been made for the West Container Terminal is on a country to company basis, not a country to country basis, meaning Sri Lanka has been negotiating with Adani Group directly without the interference or request for presence of the Indian government, to which it is a developing process, and we have to wait and see how this entire West Container Terminal and East Container Terminal project is going to be implemented in the future, because the first one was cancelled, the West one, which the Sri Lankan government just awarded to India and Sri Lankan companies. As far as our country and Japan are concerned, they are not involved, because Sri Lanka is directly negotiating with the private companies, not with the involvement of respective India and Japan. Now it is very much still developing, and we have to wait and see what will be the response of Indian government and Japanese government in the current context. Coming to the next article, Center garners 77,815 crore in spectrum auction, Jio top bidder. So the Indian government is in the next phase of auctioning the spectrum of telecom spectrum particularly, and the auction has been concluded as of Tuesday, and after bidding for a day and a half, the central government got around 77,814 crore in revenues for the spectrums. Now there was a lot of analysts expecting that the spectrum might be a failure and may not garner as much as amount the government was expecting, but in reality the amount exceeded the expectations of the government and as well as the analysts. The analysts were wrong because they were expecting par below 30,000 crores, but in reality the government got around 77,000 crores for the spectrum that it was willing to sell off. Now only 3 companies took part in the auction of the spectrum, particularly Reliance Jio Infocomm, Bharat Airtel and Vodafone. Out of these 3, the Mukesh Ambani led Reliance Jio Infocomm was the biggest bidder, acquiring close to 488.35 MHz of spectrum for 57,000 crores, followed by Bharati Airtel and finally with Vodafone. Now the spectrum, as far as the agreement is concerned, will have a lease period of over 20 years, meaning the bidders will have access to that range of frequency for 20 years without any interference from the government itself. Coming to the next article, the anatomy of a spring ceasefire. So there was this surprise statement from particularly the Office of Director Generals of Military Operations, DGMOs, from both sides of India and Pakistan on February, stating that they are going to implement a ceasefire agreement between both the countries. This comes in the backdrop of where in 2020 both India recorded an record-breaking 5,130 ceasefire violations in the line of actual control. India and Pakistan has a long history of ceasefires, meaning ceasefire agreements. Both agreed that they are going to hold up ceasefire policies and ceasefire agreements at least at 2 occasions, but they never held, meaning both the parties violated. The other side says that India violated, India says that Pakistan violated, but the given fact is line of actual control has never been peaceful, in the sense where on everyday basis there were at least 2 or 3 times both the sides used to violate the ceasefire agreement. Now in the end of February, the Director Generals of Military Operations from both sides simultaneously announced that they are going to agree for a ceasefire in the LAC areas. This came as a surprise to a lot of analysts and people, because the history does not bode well for the ceasefire agreements between India and Pakistan, because as I said earlier, we always violated those ceasefire agreements, but this time it might be different because there are certain special aspects about the ceasefire that we have signed with Pakistan recently. Now what is the speciality of it? The speciality comes at a time when there has been a mixed signals from both the military leadership and the political leadership of Pakistan Army and Pakistan government respectively. As far as the Pakistan Army is concerned, their chief of army was saying as early as in February that it is time to extend hand of peace in all directions. And from our side also, our Indian military leadership was also saying that with our continuous engagement engagement with Pakistan, we will also be able to prevail over them for border peace, as unsettled borders help no one. So the context here is that this ceasefire was not decided in a single day. For a long period of time, pre-Chinese aggression in the LOC, there were back channel communications from Indian security agencies and Indian military leadership with Pakistan intelligence agencies and Pakistan military leadership. So the back channel negotiations were going on continuously. And it finally concluded with both the DGMOs coming out and saying that we have finally agreed with a ceasefire that is going to be implemented from the night of February 24th and 25th. So this agreement is special because this is the first time both have simultaneously announced that there is a ceasefire that exists between both the countries. Second thing is the specific date from which the ceasefire will come into effect. Earlier agreements never spoke about dates nor the length of the period. This is the first time any ceasefire between India and Pakistan had a specific date for a beginning, meaning on the night of February 24th and 25th, we are going to implement the ceasefire agreement. Now, anything that happens with Pakistan in the current context has to be related with what is happening with China at Ladakh, LOC. Now there is this concept of two-front war with India and China and India and Pakistan, India being boxed by Pakistan from LAC side and China from the LOC side. It helps Indian government to diffuse a already volatile situation and ensure that we are preemptively nipping the chance of any two-front war confrontation with our neighbors. You might say that Indian army can handle a two-front war, but in reality what has happened was, since the Chinese aggression, particularly post Galwan clash where we lost 20 soldiers, Indian army had to redistribute assets from our LAC positions, meaning whatever machinery, whatever specialized mechanized units that were being deployed at LAC, they had to be redeployed at LOC. That is with the Chinese aggression side in the Ladakh areas. Now this shows that there are a lot of complications and there are a lot of limitations, materialistic limitations on Indian army also, because we always talked about modernizing the Indian army, but we failed to do so. We were never able to provide them with the best of the equipment to deal with both side hostilities or two-front war situation. So Indian government had the option to diffuse a situation where they could at least counter one side with war. If possible there was a war with China, they had at least the option to counter Pakistan with an ceasefire agreement, so that we'll avoid the two-front war situation. Now the diffusion also helps in ensuring that there is a current new administration in United States. So this also helps that India is also trying to negotiate with its prickly neighbor. Now the important aspect of this ceasefire is it has the blessings of the political establishment of both the countries. We don't know about the Pakistan side because to be pretty honest, the Pakistan military controls the political establishment of the Pakistan. But in India we have an independent political system which oversees the Indian military side, because Indian military comes under the domain of Indian government. We still have that democratic systems and checks and balances in place compared to Pakistan. Now Indian government, because since the hostilities between Pakistan and India are not new and not small, it doesn't mean that DGMO's office released and they agreed. It has to be agreed from the higher ups, meaning it has to have come from the Prime Minister's office, from our side particularly. So it implicates that this ceasefire has the blessing of our political establishment also. Time will have to tell whether this 2021 ceasefire agreement will hold or not, because if you consider the history, negotiations started in mid of 2001 or 2002 to completely solve or resolve the Kashmir issue. From 2002 to 2007, there were back channel negotiations relentlessly going between Pakistan and India, where they tried to solve or resolve the Kashmir issue. And to be pretty specific, they almost agreed for a resolution over Kashmir where both sides will be happy. But certain coalitions and certain aspects from the Pakistani side did not like the resolution or the solution that were being reached amicably. So it fell through. Now it is time for us to understand that the resolution for Kashmir particularly comes with dialogue only. Since we have an active LOC right now, Indian Army, Indian government cannot afford a two-front war with our neighbors at current juncture. Now, since 2021 ceasefire agreement is in place, it is for us to take the talks to the next level, and we have to come out with an agreement which is not piecemeal in nature. Just for the namesake we are coming out with agreements. We have to ensure that we build upon these agreements that we are signing currently. Coming to the next article, alert helps foil plan to hack power systems in Telangana. So few days back an article came out in New York Times stating that since hostilities began between China and India, the Chinese state-sponsored hackers were trying to infiltrate into our IT infrastructures, particularly the power sector. Though hostilities between India and China have lowered to a little bit post disengagement in Pangong Lake area, it seems that cyber attacks coming out of China on Indian critical IT infrastructure have not stopped yet now, because though the number of attacks on IT infrastructure of Indian government or Indian agencies have reduced to a little bit, the Chinese based hacker groups are still trying to break or attack our power sector. Yesterday, a Chinese based hacking group attempted to attack the power systems in Telangana. But due to our response from Computer Emergency Response Team of India, that is CERT-IN, they have successfully thwarted that attack and were able to protect the power systems of Telangana state. Now they were acting on the tip-offs given by the CERT team, meaning CERT monitors all external security threats that India might face. So they were monitoring certain activities of certain groups, and they realized that they were going to attack, or they were in the process of attacking power systems of Telangana. Since CERT was monitoring external threats that were being posed to Indian IT infrastructure, they were able to monitor certain attacks that were being directed towards the power sector or power grid of Telangana state, and they were able to alert them of the impending attack from the Chinese hackers. So successfully the power grid was protected. Coming to the next article, LSTV, RSTV now merged under banner of Sunset TV. Since 2 years back, our Vice President has announced that they are going to think merger of Lok Sabha TV and Rajya Sabha TV. After 2 years of work, the merger of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha is finalized, and they are going to combine them to form a new channel called Sunset TV. Now, a retired IAS officer named Ravi Kapoor was appointed as the Chief Executive Officer of the new channel, that is Sunset TV. So the idea seems to be that they wanted to join the resources of both the channels just to ensure that they get better quality programming out of a single channel. So the idea behind the merger seems to be that when these resources from both the channels are merged into one, the new channel, that is the Sunset TV, will have enough resources in its basket to fully reach its potential and serve the needs of the people in a better way, and ensure a better line of communication between our parliament and the people of our country. Coming to the next article, Army to induct new light machine guns for frontline troops. Now, the Indian Army will begin inducting the first lot of 6,000 new light machine guns, LMGs, that were manufactured in Israel. The frontline troops which are stationed in border areas are set to receive them later this month. So this is part of a bigger project that was negotiated between an Israel weapons firm and the Indian Army, where Indian Army purchased 16,497 light machine guns to fulfill its critical needs to meet the urgent requirements of Indian Army. Now, the first lot of the entire 16,000 weapons that were ordered will be available for Indian Army, which will be deployed in frontline areas. The next article, Himalayan shiro spotted in Assam. So for the first time, an Himalayan mammal that lies anywhere between a goat and an antelope has been confirmed as the new creature to be spotted in the state of Assam. A couple of nature guides who were were spotted the Himalayan serow, a goat to antelope species, in the 950 square kilometers Manas Tiger Reserve. This was the first time they have spotted this Himalayan serow in the Manas Tiger Reserve for the first time. The officials say that the serow has been spotted for the first time in the Tiger Reserve or anywhere else in Assam. This bodes well for our conservative efforts and our forest management, particularly reserve forest management. It shows that there is less human interference in the reserve forest area because new species are being found. Now this new species may have been existed before, but due to the access or increase in the access to this area by human guides and human observers, we were able to spot and record these encounters. Along with the Himalayan serow, we also observed or spotted a black-necked crane, which is considered auspicious by particularly monks. Was first observed on the Indian side also, and we have also spotted a critically endangered white-bellied hero. As far as early in February, birders, meaning bird watchers, have also sighted the colorful mandarin duck in the wetland areas of Assam. This was the first time that this duck was spotted since it was last spotted 118 years ago. So this is a set of positive news, particularly in regards to conservation of wildlife and rediscovery of old species that were thought to be lost or endangered in forests of Assam, because it shows that there is a resurgence of species alike and flora and fauna in reserve forests of Assam. Coming to the next article, Myanmar security forces fire on protesters. So in the continuous saga of the Myanmar military continuous crackdown on protesters who were opposing the military takeover of the democratically elected government in Myanmar, it seems that they have escalated things, meaning the military is directly, indiscriminately firing on protesters. As of yesterday, accounts from AFP and certain organizations that work or represent United Nations have clearly said that anywhere between 11 to 18 protesters have been died. This was the bloodiest attack in the line of clashes between protesters who were pro-democratic and military personnel. It doesn't bode well for the peace process or restoration of democracy in Myanmar, because it clearly shows that the military does not want to relinquish the power it has got in Myanmar recently by overthrowing of democratically elected government. Coming to the next article, Ambani tops Indian billionaire list with 83 billions. So year 2020 saw the biggest wealth increase for the last decade despite COVID-19. So it seems that the world has added 627 new billionaires and India on its part added 55 new billionaires. As far as India is concerned, Reliance Industries chairman Mukesh Ambani emerged as the richest man in India with a net worth of around 83 billion, came in number 8 global 10 list. Thank you. Have a great day.